Welcome to r/Entitledparents, where an entitled woman calls the cops on the person in front of her in line. So, a little backstory. I work as a technician at a cinema. It's really fun and I enjoy every day, but I do meet my fair share of entitled parents. I've been kicked, yelled at, and thrown popcorn at on several occasions. As you all know, Frozen 2 is currently on the program. It attracts a lot of people, and so it's set up in our biggest auditorium. This specific show was packed. That means a little over 400 people. In the first 15 minutes, I have to check that everything is going fine in the auditorium, temperature, sound, and so forth. I stand on the side and see a mother coming over to me with her kids and doing so rather loudly. She spoke really loudly during our entire conversation. "Excuse me? Hello? Is everything alright? My daughter needs to use the bathroom." Okay, it's out the door and to the right, and then, "No, you have to pause the movie." What? I can't pause unless it's something very serious. "My daughter needs to go to the bathroom." Sorry, but I can't pause for that. "But there was a line before the movie, and we don't want to miss any part of the movie. We paid a lot of money to see this movie, and you're required to do this." I'm sorry, but there's a packed auditorium and I just can't pause it for one person. "But I have 2 kids." If you need to use the bathroom, you can do that during the movie, but I can't pause it while you do. If you'll excuse me, I have to go to the next auditorium now. I turn and start to exit the auditorium and suddenly feel something thrown at my head. Yeah, our biggest, I don't know the word in English, and Google Translate says goblet, so popcorn goblet. Bad choice, lady. I got out of the auditorium and the manager called security and she was taken out of the cinema. She surprisingly didn't make much noise, but one of her kids spit on our security guy. We didn't press any charges because it was sort of minor and no one got hurt on our part. Did have a bump on the head the next day though. If anyone knows the correct word for popcorn goblet, please tell me. I'm so curious now. Nope, OP, you are 100% correct. The correct word is popcorn goblet. In fact, J.K. Rowling wrote a book about it, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Popcorn. Our next Reddit post is from Little Froggies. So, not my story, but my friend's. She's a midwife at a very busy hospital and followed this entitled mother with her pregnancy. With a lot of difficulty because she wouldn't show up at appointments or show up and demand being seen to when she wasn't scheduled. She was entitled the entire pregnancy, pretty much. Anyways, the end of her term comes, except she doesn't go into labor. No big deal at first. She would just have to come in every few days for my friend to check on the baby and see if she'd need to get induced. Except she straight up refuses to get induced. My friend advises her that for now, she doesn't have to be, but later, if she doesn't go into labor, she'd be risking her life and the baby's, and set up an appointment for a few days away. A few days later, she's a no-show, so my friend calls. Her patient refuses to go in because she doesn't want to be induced and that her and God know best. It'll come naturally. My friend calls every few days to try to convince the lady to come in and finally gets the husband on the phone and explains the risks to him. He convinces the lady to come in for a checkup. Still no signs of labor, and at this point, she's quite a bit overdue. My friend explains once again that entitled mother has to get induced, otherwise she risks the baby and her own life. But entitled mother says the same thing. God and her know best. My friend tells her her baby will die if she leaves the hospital, but entitled mother demands to be discharged. The hospital can't keep her against her will since neither her or her baby aren't in immediate danger. Meaning she could still maybe wait a day or two if monitored to be induced, so my friend has to let her go. Fast forward a few weeks later, entitled mother is now way past being 3 weeks overdue. 2 weeks overdue is usually the very limit for most hospitals, and comes back complaining of stomach pain. My friend orders an immediate induction and checks with a quick echo to confirm her suspicions. The baby died in the womb because entitled mother refused being induced and her placenta rot. My friend told me it was awful in the delivery room, not only because they were delivering a deceased baby, but also because of the smell of the placenta and the baby. The stomach pains the mother was complaining about was the infection from the rot. And entitled mother didn't even blame herself. She just shrugged it off as God's will, and it wasn't meant to be. She made a full recovery and was let go from the hospital, and totally plans on trying for a child again. That was absolutely horrifying. Imagine honestly believing that you know more than a doctor. What a stupid idiot. Our next Reddit post is from MacMuzi. Well, this isn't the experience I thought I'd have on my way home from the office this afternoon, but alas, here we are. While enduring my afternoon commute, I decided to stop at the old Walmart to pick up some cat food to avoid having to do it over the weekend. I usually make a point to stop at Bullseye to avoid the Walmart tomfoolery, but Walmart was closer and I was tired. I walk in and immediately experience the cacophony of Boxing Day that I'd completely forgotten about. The customer service desk line was past Subway and down the menswear, and the checkouts were an absolute nightmare. I had half a mind to turn around and leave, but I resigned to tolerating it now than dealing with a potentially worse situation on Saturday. I made a beeline for the pet section, find the biggest bag of the brand I'm keen on, hoist it over my shoulder, and off to checkout I went. As I made my way over, I glanced past the employee station sections and peeked at self-checkout, which was even more of a mess. I decided to interact with another human in Walmart for the first time in months. As I'm standing in line, I eye a Red Bull in the cooler at the end cap and snag one. I'm perhaps the third or fourth person in line at the lovely 10, maybe 20 items or less line. A limit that people love to test on an hourly basis, but I digress. It was moving at a decent enough speed for a day like today. I worked in retail and retail management for a collective 6 years, so I pride myself on being one of the most patient and understanding customers on the East Coast. The Karen behind me, however, was not. She had a shopping cart parked too close to my butt for my liking and frequently sighed and tapped her foot on the bottom section of her shopping cart, from the sound of it anyway, and tisked and tutted regularly. If I rolled my eyes any harder, they may have dislodged themselves from their sockets. I hate waiting as much as the next person, but what I hate even more are people who feel the need to do so and make that much noise in the process. The cashier summons the next person in line, and now there's just a single soul ahead of me. Karen huffs and puffs again and inches forward, bumping me with her shopping cart. I half turn and glance at the shopping cart, and then at her, giving her a neutral eyebrow raise, hoping she'd get the hint and take a step or two back. Spoiler alert, she didn't. But it was then she decided that either her bumping me with her cart or my decision to turn around and acknowledge her existence was the green light to bother me. And so it begins. "Excuse me." I don't say anything. "Excuse me." I turn slightly, cat food still hoisted over my shoulder. Me? "Yes, could you let me in front of you? I'm tired of waiting." I glance into Entitled Karen's shopping cart. I only have 2 things, I'll be quick. "Yeah, but I'm tired of waiting. This line is ridiculous." Well, I can't help that, sadly. "You kids have no respect for your elders." I'm 26 years old. I'm hardly a kid, and you look about 36. You're hardly what I'd consider an elder, and you're certainly not mine. "Wow, rude, Mudge. I just asked to get in front of you in line." Yes, and I heard you perfectly fine. Look, with respect, if our roles were reversed, I'd totally let you. But you have a cart full of things while I only have 2. Please, I'm just trying to wait for my turn in peace. "Your cat can wait. My kids are in the car waiting for me." Not a me problem. Hope they have supervision. She emits some kind of guttural growl or sneer. At this point, the customer in front of me turns his head slightly to glance behind him and glances at the large bag of cat food over my shoulder. "Hey man, do you want to go ahead of me?" "Nah, that's alright. You've been waiting longer than me. Thanks though, I appreciate it." "I'll go if he won't." "I wasn't speaking to you." "Why, I never." And she emits more guttural noises. The customer ahead of me took his turn with the cashier, and I, now mildly exhausted from having a 20-something pound of cat food over my shoulder, bent forward to prop it against the checkout conveyor belt since the customer in front of me had loaded it with his items. It's worth mentioning at this point of the story that I have a license to carry and always do. A 9mm compact in an IWB holster in the back of my pants. What I didn't realize was that when I bent forward, my bomber jacket lifted enough to determine what was securely tucked away. In my state, printing, that is, the outline of a firearm showing through your clothes, or anything of the sort isn't necessarily illegal. Neither is open carrying, it's just better mannered to keep your concealed carry, well, concealed. Usually to avoid making people uncomfortable or giving someone an excuse to cause a scene, which is exactly what this Karen decided to do. "You have a gun!" I don't say anything but roll my eyes. "He has a gun! He has a gun!" "I have a license to carry it. Will you be quiet and mind your business?"
He threatened to shoot me. Help! I need a manager! Someone call the police!
Now the entire front end of the store is looking over in our direction, and I honestly just wanted to sink into the disgusting linoleum and fall into oblivion. The cashier rolls her eyes and picks up the phone to summon asset protection and the store manager. Asset protection arrives on scene first, with the manager arriving a few moments later. The asset protection officer says, "What seems to be the problem here?"
That guy has a gun and threatened to shoot me.
Oh my lord. Ma'am, please calm down. Sir, what's the issue? I didn't threaten to shoot her. I've been waiting in line, minding my business. Sir, if you have a gun, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the store. We do not allow guns here. There's no posted signage stating this fact, but that's fine. I'd like to get away from her anyway.
No, I want him arrested. He threatened to kill me.
I did not.
You're an effing liar. You threatened to kill me.
You're insane and a negligent parent, miss. My kids are in the car.
How dare you bring my kids into this? Are you going to shoot them too?
The store manager shows up. Excuse me, I'm the store manager here. What's going on? This woman claims this man has a gun and threatened to shoot her. I just asked him to leave. The cashier said, he barely said a word to her. And the shopper in front of me said, yeah, he's been standing in line quiet and she's been harassing him about taking his place in line. He didn't threaten to shoot her. He's barely said anything to her. Still, you can't have guns in the store. You'll need to leave or I'll call the police. Excuse me, I don't see a gun. Sir, what happened? I leaned down to put the bag of cat food down since I got tired of holding it, and my jacket must have lifted and revealed my gun. I have a license to carry and it was concealed. We don't allow open carry. Concealed carry is allowed in accordance with our state regulations. Sir, may I please see your LTC? I open my wallet and hand over my license to carry. He hands it back. Looks like you to me. I apologize for the inconvenience. Asset protection, meet me in the staff room in 5 minutes. It seems we need to review our policies and guidelines before you ask customers to leave unnecessarily.
No, I want him arrested. He threatened to kill me and my children. Aren't you listening?
Well, someone in the store must have called the police, because a second later, a police officer approached just as entitled Karen finished screeching. The store manager explained the situation to the officer, who then heard from the cashier and the shopper in line in front of me, verified my license to carry, and dismissed me. Officer, forgive me, it may not be my business, but entitled Karen told me she left her children in the car. I don't know how old they are, but given the fact that this whole nonsense took up God knows how long, someone might want to check on those kids. The officer turns to entitled Karen. Excuse me, ma'am, I'm going to need to escort you to your vehicle. Entitled Karen began another tirade of screaming and arguing and ended up being removed from the store by the police officer. I don't know what happened to her or her kids. Maybe the kids were of age and could be left alone. But given her appearance and the impression I got from her, they most likely were kids that shouldn't be left alone. So here's what I want to know. If one of Karen's elders was behind her in line and asked to get in front of the Karen, surely she would have allowed it, right? Our next Reddit post is from Rexy saying, I'm Mexican and some, definitely not all white Mexicans are pretty rude and racist to brown folks. My family is pretty mixed, but I'm darker than most of my cousins. This info will come in handy later. I was around 9 years old and I was in line for face painting. It was the birthday party of one of my whitest cousins. Suddenly a woman, one of my aunt's friends, shoved her 3-year-old in front of me and started talking to the makeup artist about how her spawn wanted a Spider-Man mask or whatever. The makeup artist looked at me like saying, "Speak up." I said, "Ma'am, I got here first."
Well, I know, but he's younger.
But I still got here first.
Can't you just let him go before you? I bet it won't take long. It'll be something little.
No, I was first. Entitled mother rolled her eyes and started trying to shove her kid in front of me, but I held onto the chair to block the kid's path. Finally, my aunt showed up to see what was going on.
Someone's maid's daughter is hogging the face painting. You know they barely teach manners in the villages.
My aunt and I were making eye contact throughout her whole comment. She looked horrified and stared at entitled mother furiously. That's my niece, entitled mother. Finally, the makeup artist started working on me, but I could still hear them talking.
I'm so sorry. It's just, she is prietita.
It kind of translates to little brown girl.
So I thought she was the daughter of someone's maid.
You know, your baby looks like he's tired. Maybe he should go home and rest. I might call you later. Entitled mother and her kid left the party, and my aunt couldn't stop hugging me and calling me beautiful. She felt pretty guilty, but my parents assured her it wasn't her fault. Still, we never went to another one of her family's parties again. My aunt's mother, who was always pretty racist, she was just barely lighter than me, but her husband was from the Netherlands and she felt that made her white and outsourcing. Sided with entitled mothers, saying I did look like a maid and my parents decided I had enough of that side of my family. This is wrong on so many levels. Let's just ignore the obvious racism for a second and point out that so what if she was the maid's daughter? Is a maid's daughter less entitled to enjoy the party? Isn't it possible that the maid's daughter could be friends with the birthday kid? Couldn't they even be best friends? That lady wasn't just racist, she was also classist. Our next Reddit post is from Shy Girl Turned Sassy. This happened when I, a female, was 13 years old and was attending a male friend's birthday party. We attended the same school and a lot of other kids from our school were also there, along with their parents. As I gave my friend his present, I wished him a happy birthday with a hug. When he was cutting the cake, another boy from our school, who was a notorious bully, stood right next to me. He kept trying to touch my chest. I was already quite developed. I kept telling him to stop, but he wouldn't listen. He kept trying to put his arms around me and trying to grope my chest. His friends were standing around us and I could hear them snicker. Finally, I'd had enough. I yelled at him to get away from me. My friend's mom, the hostess, asked me what was wrong. I told her what the bully had been doing. She sternly told the bully to apologize and to stop harassing me, otherwise he'd be asked to leave. Now the bully's mom, the entitled mother, stepped in. She asked my friend's mom why she was scolding her son. My friend's mom explained what the bully had been doing. Entitled mother's response was something like, I don't see what the big deal is. This girl hugged your son. Why can't she let my son touch her? Then she turned to me and said, you need to stop being so stuck up and learn to be friendly. If my son just put his arm around you, what's wrong with that? Stop complaining. I told her I didn't like her son and didn't like him touching me. Friend's mom told her to stop making a scene and that her son needs to apologize. Entitled mother acted indignant as she stormed off. She again said something like, if that girl is okay with your son touching her, she's probably okay with all the boys touching her. You're just being rude to us. My friend's mom was absolutely wonderful. She asked if I was okay and told me I'd done the right thing by telling that boy off. This was my first encounter with an entitled parent, outside of my own family that is. Does anybody else have the worrying concern that that kid is probably gonna end up in jail? That was r/Entitledparents, and if you like this video and want to see more just like it, then hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.